Good evening and welcome to the Pompey Politics Podcast. You join us for the first of our 2026 local election hustings special. I'm Ian Tiny Morris.
And I'm Simon Sansbury. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Ian.
Yes, we finally got there after weeks, possibly even months of trying to corral candidates into one space. We have finally got three good folks to come and make their pitch to the electorate of Portsmouth, which is fantastic news. So thank you for joining us all.
We have indeed, and we'll introduce them in a second. Just quickly before I do, I'll put some comments in the chat. If you want to watch the stream vertically, and you're not currently doing so, there's a link there for you to be able to do so. Vice versa, if you want to watch it horizontally. So let's talk quickly about our hustings and how they work. So I'll quickly do those, and then we'll introduce our fantastic guests and our candidates for this evening. So we've held ward hustings for Portsmouth local elections since 2022. This year, for logistical reasons, we decided to invite candidates that are standing for parties which achieved at least 1% of the citywide vote share in either the local or the general elections in 2024. So if you check those figures from the Portsmouth City Council's website, that would be the Conservative Party, the Green Party, Labour Party, and the Liberal Democrats, and Portsmouth Independence Party and Reform. About 2 weeks before the close of nominations, we contacted all of the incumbents that were standing, the parties themselves, and any candidates that we were already aware of. And then after close of nominations, when the candidates were confirmed and published, we then also repeated that process in an attempt to get hold of as many of them as we could. For all of the candidates, we could find contact details. It's fair to say responses this year have been a bit slower than they were in previous years. And to confirm, Portsmouth Reform did say that they would not be fielding any of their candidates this year. And although we did have expressions of interest from the Liberal Democrats, we had 4 of their candidates express an interest. We weren't able to get them to commit availability to the dates that we'd suggested, so weren't able to include them in the hustings either. So how do our hustings work? Each candidate has a 2-minute opening and a 90-second closing speech. All of our questions have been provided to the candidates in advance. We want you to hear their best answer rather than this being simply a test of who can perform the best in front of a microphone on the day. We'll randomise who answers which question in which order, and each candidate has 2 minutes to answer every question. When all candidates have answered, there is an optional 30-second rebuttal in order to respond to a point. However, we do caution candidates against overuse of this because the public tend not to like that very much, especially if it's just being used to have the last word. So thank you again to all of our candidates. Thank you for joining us this evening. We are joined by Thomas Hall from the Conservative candidate for Paulsgrove, Elliott Lee, the Green candidate for Charles Dickens, and Tom Coles, the Labour candidate for Fratton. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you.
Good evening.
Okay, you panicked me then for a bit because you were all silent, and I was expecting some sort of noise, and I thought something had gone dreadfully wrong. So thank you very much. So before we started the show, we did a highly technical toss of a coin and a choosing of who goes in which order, and that order applies to the speeches, and then our highly technical randomizer uses that to help us figure out who answers the questions in which order. So our first opening speech is from Elliott. Are you ready, Elliott?
I'm ready.
Okay, away you go.
Brilliant. Thank you both for having me and organising today. So for those who don't know me, I'm Elliott. I'm standing in the Charles Dickens ward. I'm also the coordinator of Portsmouth Green Party. I campaign on disability issues, housing rights, and endless list of other things. In my day job, I support survivors of modern slavery and human trafficking. And what I find is I'm consistently dealing with council services across the city. And I'm finding they are consistently falling short of what residents really need. And to be honest with you, it's just not adding up at all, is it? We're working harder than ever, and our bills are still going up. Council tax rises, and services keep falling short. We make personal sacrifices for the environment, yet things just get worse and worse. We vote for change, and nothing comes of it. We do everything right, and we just push towards division. And we hear it on the doorsteps consistently. Voters are all in the same boat. People hope that their hard work and uncomfortable votes will pay off. Yet things just seem to be spiraling out of control. Today, you'll be hearing about some of my priorities, some green priorities. But I just want to start off with a promise. And that is that if elected, a Green Party councillor will never be told how to vote or be told what to say. Unlike other parties, we're not whipped on how to vote. So you can be sure that anyone elected for the Green Party will be a true independent voice.
Thank you very much, Elliott. So next in our opening speeches is Thomas. You ready, Thomas?
Certainly am.
Okay. Where you go.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Thomas Hoare. I'm a community activist and I'm the Conservative Party candidate in the Paulsgrove, Portsolon and Wimmering election this year. I'm also the election agent for Portsmouth Conservatives, which gives me a really good overview of the north of the city. I know sort of a lot of the issues that are going on and I hear the priorities for every resident in the north. Before we come on to that, I want to thank Ian and I want to thank Simon for organising this hustings. I know it's a lot of work, having previously done these before. I know how much time and effort they put in. I also want to thank Tom and Elliott for coming along and agreeing to do it. I think it's really important that anybody seeking election is willing to take part in democratic hustings. And I know that certain parties don't, and I'm sure certain parties don't have the permission to. And that's a real shame for the residents that don't get to hear their voices. For a little bit of background around me, I started out in education. I worked in a local primary school in the early years setting, and I'm now a governor at a different primary school in Paulsgrove. I now work for the charity sector. I work in a really well-known charity in Portsmouth where we support some of the city's most vulnerable, whether that be survivors of domestic abuse, people facing homelessness, or people who just cannot keep up with their bills. As part of that, I work with a range of council services. I don't just work with the statutory side, I work with the voluntary side. And something that I am hearing and seeing every day in my job is that people need help. And the help that some parties are promising of cutting services that, quite frankly, have no effect, or promising to lower bills without financial management and sound financial management at that, it won't help. It is a dangerous game.
Thank you, Thomas. Did you want to finish? Because I let Elliott finish his sentence. Did you need to? Do you have a sentence to finish there? I won't be that harsh.
I was just going to say, anyone who votes Conservative on May the 7th will get a strong local voice for their area, not a national issue repeater, a local voice for your area.
Okay. Thank you very much. Tom, thank you very much for jumping in and being willing to take part. Are you ready for yours?
Always happy to help you guys out.
Thank you very much. Poised like a coiled zebra, away you go.
Hi there, I'm Councillor Tom Coles. I've represented the ward of Fratton for 8 years, but I've been an active campaigner since 2014 when I first stood. Live in the heart of the ward with my wife and my 3 daughters, chair of Fratton Community Centre, attend St Mary's Church, actively volunteer at community events. In my time as councillor, I've raised motions on veteran support, support for adults with ADHD and autism, and I've seconded the climate emergency. As a Labour group, we're not always in step with the National Party. Although we do have the ear of the 2 city MPs, we can do our own thing to a certain degree, and we will always discuss things as a group and not just do what the National Party might want us to do. I was also the Lord Mayor for 23-24, which got me out in the city. I saw a lot of different community groups in the city a lot of different charities. It really opened my eyes to things across the city rather than just focusing on Fratton. And I also do a lot of work with my wife Nikki on send support. Yeah, if I'm re-elected, I will support the Labour group as necessary. I have broken the whip once or twice, but I will always go with my heart over instruction. And I don't need a full 2 minutes.
Bless you. Thank you
Perfect.
very much. Anybody who can
Always
give back a bit of time,
always,
we're eternally grateful.
always leave them
Absolutely.
wanting more.
This is perfect. So that brings me on to our first question, which is, what are the 3 top issues in your ward? And if elected, how might you fix them? And can I ask that first to Thomas, please?
Yeah, of course you can. So in Paulsgrove, it's a really, really key 3 things that keep coming up. It's dangerous driving on Alloway Avenue, it's access to services that are stuck in the city centre, and it's antisocial behaviour, including dog fouling, which has been on the rise recently. We can't say these are simple issues. We know the causes of antisocial behaviour, we know the causes of dangerous driving, and we know why services are in the city. However, if I'm elected, it will be a resident-led approach. It won't be, let's see what city council services we can bring up. It will be, what services do you want? Why do you want them? Where would be best to have them? When would be best to have them? And it's the exact same approach with antisocial behaviour. It's about finding the root causes. It's about working with voluntary, community, and the education sector to all say, actually, what preventative measures can we put in? Of course, we need tougher policing. That's a given. If you want to stop crimes being committed, you do need policing. I think a really key part is the preventative. And in terms of the dangerous driving, we need some sort of traffic calming. We need some sort of way to stop people racing along Alloway Avenue, where there are 3 key schools. There's the park on Alloway Avenue and there's Alloway Avenue shops. If people keep doing it, somebody is going to get hurt. And I don't think the issue is the rhetoric that some national parties are putting out about penalising drivers. It's not every driver. That's it.
Perfect. Thank you, Thomas. So again, and thank you for being succinct with the top 3 issues. Often this one overruns. So can I ask the same question, the top 3 issues, Tom, in your ward, and what would you do to fix them?
Thank you. So the top issue that comes up, and obviously I see living in the ward, is fly tipping. Fratton seems to be the city's dumping ground. We get a lot of fly tipping from other places. They bring it here and dump it. We have got temporary CCTV set up in some of the hotspots, and it's decreased it, but it's just moved it to other places. And I know council officers are working hard, and I place on record my thanks to them. But I think we need to encourage the residents to report more, or let the councillors know and they can report it. We're really active with the councillors in Fratton. Other issues, parking. There's inconsistent implementation of residents' parking zones in Fratton. We need more consultation, more detailed consultation, and better implementation as a whole city for parking. And as with Thomas, antisocial behaviour comes up a lot. Residents worry about youths, in particular. It can be intimidating. Don't know if they've got knives. I think the solution there is education, more youth provision. I think prevention is the way we need to go with that. And that's my 3 issues.
Thank you, Tom. Again, encouragingly succinct. And finally, Elliott, what are you hearing are the top 3 issues in Charles Dickens, and how would you fix them?
Yeah, so I think the top 3 issues in Charles Dickens that I've been hearing on the doorstep, and these are issues that are probably quite similar across the city and the country even. So these have been the quality of housing, the cost of living crisis, and particularly education and opportunities for young people. Now, these are things I could probably talk on for a while, but I want to keep it succinct again for you guys. So I want to particularly talk about one of our kind of pledges, and that's around our warm homes warm homes promise. And this is all about insulating homes across the city. At the minute, it's being done about 20 homes a year, which is it's gonna be decades, centuries before we cover the whole of Portsmouth. So we want to insulate homes block by block across the city, street by street. And the idea behind insulating homes is that this keeps energy bills down, it keeps money in residents' pockets, but it's also, the idea will be to give jobs to local people, and that can start with apprenticeships for young people to move them from education into work.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much, Elliott. Obviously, I have to offer the three of you the opportunity for rebuttal for anything anybody else has said,
No, I think
which you haven't, which is superb. In which case, I will hand you on to Simon for question 2.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So, came up a bit there. Traffic and parking are frequent frustrations for residents. How would you tackle them? And if I can ask that first to Tom.
so. I think most of the problem with parking, especially in Portsmouth, is the piecemeal implementation of the residents' parking zones. We need a whole city approach. Common sense. So, for instance, I'm in a parking zone south of St Mary's Road. It's an all-day parking zone, but you get 2 hours free. They've implemented one to the north of St Mary's Road, which is only for 2 hours a day. And I know there are residents that are just moving their car for 2 hours, moving it back. It makes no sense. There's no common sense there. Residents aren't always sure about what's going on, where it's been implemented. They don't remember any consultations coming up. Resident consultation is key on this. Not all areas want a parking zone, but we need to consider the residents above everything else. And I know with that new parking zone north of St Mary's Road, there's some businesses on Kingston Road, Fratton Road that have been affected. And that's in conjunction with the current works going on with the bus lane they're putting in from Lake Road up. It's taking away parking spaces for people just to pull in to go to those independent stores, and that's really affected them. There's had to be layoffs. It could go out of business. As for traffic, we need more traffic calming across the city. I agree with what Thomas was saying about Alloway Avenue. It's horrific. There's very little traffic calming up there. It's almost inviting people to drive fast and dangerously. And there's several places around the city where I'd implement that. Resident-led approach, more common sense. That's what we need.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And if I can ask the same question to Elliott, please.
Sure. So, to be honest with you, I'm quite biased as somebody who walks everywhere in the city. So, what I want to be particularly hearing from residents from all backgrounds, because we have a diverse range of people in the city, right, that are driving for all types of reasons. So we want to be hearing from families, we want to be hearing from the elderly, young people, students, disabled people, business owners, professionals. We want to understand why people are driving and where people are driving to. From that, we can understand what infrastructure we need to put in place. Is it that we already know there's not enough dentists about, but it may be, for example, there's not enough accessible playgrounds around the city. We also need to, again, consider why people are driving. If it's business, could we be looking at more sustainable alternatives? For example, we could have a fleet of shared vehicles for business owners across the city. And I also agree with traffic calming measures. We know these particularly work in comparison to strict enforcement, and we need to kind of take a citywide, a needs-based approach to that, and that's going to be very much the Green Party approach, along with having a strong focus around reducing air quality as well, with expanding the clean air zones.
Thank you very much. And then Thomas.
Yeah, so it's as I had said previously with Alloway Avenue. It's not necessarily that there's a lack of speed calming measures, as we know from coming off of Southampton Road and heading on Alloway Avenue. It is littered with speed bumps. I think the issue really comes from people knowing what their actions could do, people understanding why those measures are in place, and enforcement of those measures. But in terms of parking in streets, I must say overall Paulsgrove is pretty good for parking. It's not a major issue. We're not like in, say, Copner or in Charles Dickens or in Fratton where we are really dense. There are a few issues. I know I've had some issues reported to me about parking on pavements and mobility scooters not being able to get by. But on the overall, I would say parking is fine. As for traffic, it really depends, as I'm sure Tom and Elliott would agree, being in the south of the city, on whatever's going on with the Eastern Road on that day. If the Eastern Road is shut for repairs, then the whole city gets blocked up, as we know. The one thing I would say is that people who live on a road know that road. We can't have council officers that are sat in the civic offices deciding what's going to happen in Lime Grove. It doesn't make sense. They're on the other side of the city. They're never going to drive into that road unless they live there. I am all for having residents of a road decide what parking looks like on their road and what parking looks like in their area.
Thank you very much. Ian. Oh, sorry. Anyone need a rebuttal on that one? We all good?
I was just going to say I should have caveated my bit with I don't drive either. So.
Okay. Same. for the record.
Okay. Does anyone on this call drive? Okay.
So I use the toy scooters to get around.
Absolutely. So that brings us nicely onto the high streets. So what would you do to breathe new life into our shopping areas, or is the high street as we know it already dead? And I'm going to ask that first to Elliott, please.
Sure. And I think, we're very much due a new generation of high streets where it's not, it's not just about the buzz of shopping, but high streets can be a true, hub for the community as they have been in the past. I think we have so many unused shop spaces, where everything is going online these days, and unfortunately that is, that's kind of unstoppable in a sense. But these spaces can still be used. They can be used for young people, elderly. They could be used for quiet spaces for neurodivergent people. They could be used for classes, for everyone to be learning new skills. There's some great groups across the city doing sustainability workshops, for example, that would be amazing to have on the high street to teach people how to be kind of more resilient in the coming years. We could have classes for English classes for migrants to help with integration. But alongside that, obviously, we do still need business support, and we do need some real practical, options for business owners. And again, I think we need more sustainable options for business owners. So again, looking at like a shared fleet of vehicles for across the city that business owners could use, or even spaces where people can store their what they need, where they don't have space otherwise.
Perfect. Thank you, Elliott. And you've mentioned the shopping areas in Fratton already, Tom. So again, what would you do to breathe new life into them, or is the high street already dead?
Well, I think Fratton Road, Kingston Road is actually in the last couple of years, it's kind of turned around. We have lots of takeaways. We have lots of little independent shops. There's obviously we've got Asda. The council's bought the Bridge Centre, which is great. That's getting filled up with stuff. But I agree with what Elliott said, that people's habits have changed. And it's like a cultural change we need to address, really. So I think places like Commercial Road, I had the great idea of Debenhams would be an excellent place to develop into a cultural hub. where it's like a museum, gallery, cafe, all sorts in there. But that's not going to happen. But I think it's encouraging businesses, residents, shoppers to take a bit of pride in the area as well. So these places are looking run down and they need a bit of work, and obviously that costs money and effort. But I think just a little bit of pride in the place just brings it up a bit. But as for changing shopping habits, I think we need to look at it and see what people want to go to the shopping areas for, rather than just go, oh, Woolworths isn't there anymore, I really miss that. We need to look at modern things. The one thing I will say we need to bring back is the food court in Cascades.
Big fan of the food court.
Oh, with the glass lift, it was great.
It takes me back to my youth. But anyway, thank you, Tom.
Right.
And obviously, finally to Thomas, what are the shoppers of Paulsgrove want and need?
So I wouldn't say the high street is dead. Alloway Avenue shop, for example, has some really, really great little independent businesses. They do have a few chains, but that's not a bad thing for the economic activity of an area. What I really do think our high streets need to become a communal space again. Before, years ago, on a high street, you could stand there and have a coffee with someone. You could have a chat, or you could sit down on a bench, and at some point someone would sit next to you and spark up a conversation. And yeah, on the day you might have thought, oh, I'm only trying to do a bit of shopping, or I'm waiting for someone to come out of Poundland. But it's that interaction, it's that community. What I think is really upsetting is when we have parties in Portsmouth that say they are pro-business, they are working for business owners, entrepreneurs, and then they don't bother even looking at our high streets. I'm really proud that through an amendment to the budget in February, I managed to secure community seating for Alloway Avenue shops. That community seating will be installed at the latest, I would say, by about September, which, yeah, for the winter months, it doesn't mean a lot. You can't sit out there in the rain. However, for that key time of summer, that will mean a lot. I also think we need to look really carefully at the antisocial behaviour and the youth gatherings on our high street. We definitely need some sort of youth provision. We've got Hillside Club in Paulsgrove. There's some different bits across the north of the city. I'm not quite sure it's enough. I don't think the council should be throwing money at those provisions to try and get them to work. They should be youth-led, resident-led, and there should be some real engagement about building that offer.
Thank you, Thomas. I will pause in case anybody wants to come in, and unless anybody shouts, which they haven't, I shall throw you to Simon.
Okay. So question 4. So voter turnout across the city varies significantly, with some wards repeatedly much lower than others. How can this be addressed? And first to Tom, please.
Hello. We've always had a bit of a problem with vote turnout, particularly local elections. It can be really disheartening. You can spend a year, 6 months really hammering it, especially election day. I mean, when I got re-elected, I knocked on all but 2 roads in Fratton, and we had a 26% turnout, I think. I think part of the problem is burnout. I've looked into this. So since 2010, we've had 5 general elections, 13 Portsmouth City Council local elections. We've had 4 Police and Crime Commissioner elections, 2 EU Parliament elections, and 2 referendums. That's 26 votes. I think the 1/3 system that Portsmouth use, I think it encourages apathy almost, because people don't want to be going out every 3 out of 4 years. And it also encourages instability in a council. If we had all-out elections, there'd be a stable council for 4 years, rather than chopping and changing a third of the council, potentially a third of the council every 3 out of 4 years. Sometimes it can be a bit difficult to engage with residents. I do my best, but we can get out on the doorstep. We can get people who just don't want to speak to you, slam the door. Get people with no canvases, no gold callers, no leaflets. It can be difficult to engage with these people, but that's their right if they don't want to speak to us. But I think as well, the it's all a bit polarized with I don't want to blame social media, but everything seems to be put into echo chambers, and it can be difficult to have conversations with some people. Everything's black and white. There's no grey areas anymore, and I'm a grey area sort of person. But yeah, I think burnout for me is probably the main cause of a low turnout.
Okay, thank you very much, Thomas. Voter
Yeah,
turnout.
it comes down to one word. It's trust. It's the trust of the electorate that the people who are making promises will really make change. And I think we have seen an abuse of that trust over the past few years. And I'm not going to say that the last Conservative government didn't abuse that trust. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the current Labour government has not abused that trust. Why would you vote? Why would you vote for somebody that you don't trust? You wouldn't put your kids with someone you wouldn't trust, would you? You wouldn't allow someone you don't trust to make life-changing decisions for you. And I think for all the time that parties pull cheap stunts and councillors go back on their words, or people that fight on a local only mandate decide to jump ship to a national party after attacking the party system, why would you vote for them? Voter turnout simply comes down to trust.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. Don't know what's happened to Elliott. Elliott, are you still there? Because I seem to have lost you from the call. 1 second, let me just try and see. Yeah, we seem to have lost Elliott.
Oh dear.
Careless of us.
Lament.
Hopefully Elliott's okay, and we'll be back in shortly. On that basis, was there anything else that anyone needed to rebut on question 4? Okay. I'm going to try and get hold of Elliott and see what's going on there. Ian, are you all right to carry on with question 5?
Yeah, no, we'll carry on with 5, and if you're still playing about, luckily, because the scrambulator has worked its magic, Elliott is in last spot to answer this question. So this is excellent news. So this one is a subject that comes up very often, which is houses of multiple occupancy. Are they good, bad, or ugly? And can I ask that first to Thomas?
Sorry, Ian, can I just stop you there for a second? Yep. We've got Elliott back.
Elliott's back.
Welcome
Perfect.
back, Elliott. You all right?
Hi, apologies for that. I was not paying attention to my battery. I was too engrossed into the debate.
Okay, well, we can't fault you being highly engrossed in the debate. Do you want to, because it was your turn to respond to the voter turnout question, do you want to quickly do that?
Yes, absolutely. And I think, it is quite a loaded question, right? Like, this is not just a local issue, it's national, it's international as well. And I know Charles Dickens is particularly historically has quite a low voter turnout as well, and as others have said, it is very much about apathy, trust. What I think we really need locally is more opportunities for people to have their say in their local kind of democracy bubble. And I think that starts a responsibility with councillors engaging with residents. Again, Green Party councillors will always listen to residents and will never be told how to vote, but we can go further. We can have forums. I hate the idea of consulting and just talking to people, but we need solutions that work and are kind of designed by the whole community. So that's where building trust and reducing apathy really starts.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Ian, sorry to chop and change.
No,
Question 5.
I am absolutely poised, and again, it's much more important that we hear from our candidates. So we're on to question 5. Take a deep breath because you need to run up at this one. Houses of multiple occupation, good, bad, or ugly? Thomas, over to you.
So I really want to kind of you've got my really good friend and colleague, Councillor Ben Swan, coming onto the podcast for his hustings in a few days. And he is the expert for Portsmouth Conservatives when it comes to HMOs. So I want to leave the more nitty gritty details to him. But really simply and as an overview, it's a change to the city planning policy. It's a change to the Town and County Planning Act. Those are the two big things that need to happen if we want to get HMOs in Portsmouth under control. The other thing is that if a councillor says they will fight against HMOs, they have to do it. There's no reason why they couldn't. They may say, oh, I sit on the planning committee, I couldn't possibly. You can leave for that item. I've seen Councillor Susie Horton do it before. You can leave for that item, you can call it in and you can fight it with your residents. I don't believe anybody when they say, I'm on the planning committee, I couldn't possibly comment on a HMO. It's a chicken way to not have to stand up for the things you promised your residents you would work for. And that's it.
Thank you, Thomas. So, Tom, Fratton, HMOs, where do you stand?
Well, just to start with, I've managed to avoid the planning committee for 8 years. I've been on the licensing committee the whole time, which I'm really glad about. I think HMOs, I think they do serve a purpose, but I think the system's exploited. I think it can be good for students, good for those who might not be able to afford their own place, people between places. But I think some landlords are exploiting it. I know there's some that have got unlicensed HMOs, poor quality properties, and they're ruining it for the good ones. Really, I get a lot of contact residents concerned about HMOs. I think they also remove family homes from the market for people looking to get a home for their to build a family for Portsmouth. I think there need to be more hardline limits. I think it's a bit woolly, and I think that the regulation on HMOs needs to be a lot more strict and a lot more stringent. It needs to be implemented and regulated rigorously, and I don't think it is at the moment.
Thank you, Tom. Elliott, you said you've got an interest in housing, so where do you stand on the HMO question?
Yeah, I think HMOs definitely, they're not bad. They do serve a purpose for the city, and I have lived in one or two. I think I worked out the other day about 6 or so places I've moved to in the last 8 years, which gives you an idea of how kind of terrible the renting market is. Here in Portsmouth, what is bad, what is ugly is the landlords that are exploiting not just those living in HMOs, but they're kind of leeching off the local community. What we really need to do is kind of crack down on these landlords, right? We need stronger regulation on them, and particularly in regards to the living spaces that residents get. It's not okay for people to be living in box rooms. I've come across cases in my work where the wall is falling apart, it's just dripping with water, or families are climbing over each other just to get out of their rooms. So we need stronger regulations to ensure that properties are up to scratch, and landlords are fulfilling their duty. And that's going to be particularly prevalent when the landlord register comes into effect under the new Renters' Rights Act.
Thank you, Elliott. Simon.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm seeing that no one's kind of lurching for rebuttal, so we appreciate that. It's enabling us to move through the questions very, very swiftly. Question 6. What would you see the council do to tackle the knife crime and other violent assaults on our city's streets? And firstly, that's to Elliott, please.
Sure. So let's just be very clear to start off with that more policing is neither helpful nor within the role of a councillor. So I'm not even going to step into that area. What again we need to do is more opportunities for young people across the city. I talked about community hubs earlier, but importantly, we need to understand why people carry knives. And from my experience in my role, I find people carry it out of fear, right? People are scared, and so we need to address that, and we need to make the city a safe space for people. So we need to create safe community hubs for people throughout evenings. For example, we need to light up streets a lot more, and that doesn't always just make it safer for it makes it these areas more accessible for everyone, because at the end of the day we want more a more cohesive community. We're also exploring with our candidate Jay Mercer in St Thomas bleed kits, how the kind of possibility of that across the city, and I think that would be a big benefit to many residents, not just in the sad scenario that is needed, but it could create some really good skills for everyone.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. And next, the same question to Thomas, please.
So, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that knife crime and violent assaults aren't an issue. However, I do, and I'm going to be really boring, I'm afraid, I do have some statistics from the 2024 community crime survey that took place. It was a sample of 1,054. Of that, 44% said that knife crime was a problem, 33% said it was not a problem, and the remaining percentage didn't know. Only 4% of those people had said they had actually witnessed knife crime. I think it's a big perception issue. It's such a shocking thing to happen, especially in your local community, that it really rings without it. We've seen examples of it over the past few years. We know it does exist, and we know that actually one of the best methods to stopping it is really good prevention and really good policing. Those are the two sides of the coin that you need to stop it. There's lots of local groups that work with youth. I work with a gentleman who goes into schools. He was formerly involved in gang violence in London. He is really good at talking to children about the associated risks of carrying knives or getting into county lines and drug running. I also know of a CIC that's based in Portsmouth that's really good at going in and talking to children. And luckily for us, we also have local named bobbies who are really involved in their community, and they know how to be involved for that prevention and that policing.
Okay, thank you very much, Thomas. Tom, knife crime.
Well, it's never easy going last on these things, is it? So yeah, I think better education. And I know my older two daughters' secondary school. They had ex-offenders going in and speaking to the kids in assemblies. I think victims and ex-offenders going in and doing those sort of talks is a lot more personal than just a poster or an advert online. I think better youth provisions. We do have a youth club over at the community centre. It's fairly well attended, but I think more provisions like that. It's only one night a week, so I think I find it difficult. Back in my day, if you were carrying a knife, you were seen as weak, and you probably got beaten up just for having a knife on you. To kids having scuffles back then, it didn't result in deaths. I think we need to alter the mindset somehow. We need to educate the children or the young people who are carrying these knives. It's almost like they're carrying them out of a paranoia. So they think, oh, the other person's got a knife, so I need to have a knife. And it's to try and help them move on from that mindset.
Okay, fantastic. Everybody good with that one? We'll move on to the next question. Ian?
Oh, yes. This one's a big one. The great spectre of local government reorganisation. Simple question. You can expand on the answer a bit, but good or bad? Thomas.
It's an odd one. Local government reorganisation. I think if it had been planned out correctly and if we knew the associated parts of it, it could have been really good. I think the issue is we've had a government that has kind of rushed into this decision. They didn't have the mandate. They did not say in the general election, we are going to reorganise your local councils. We've known devolution was coming. We didn't know what LGR looked like. And I think to say to councils, you need to get responses into us quickly without a fair planning process in place really puts us at risk of financial overheads that we can't meet. It puts services at risk, and especially services that aren't statutory, services that the council support that they don't have to support. I just wish it had been planned better. I really wish that actually the government had came in and said, we are looking to do this in 2 or 3 years. What do you think? And we're also now going to have a shadow authority in 2027 without a mayor, which to me, it would have made sense to bring both those offices in at the same time, develop them together, have them go through their life cycle together. But in the long run, hopefully good. In the short term, I don't think we fully know.
Brilliant. Thank you, Thomas. So, Tom, LGR.
Well, this is where I get in trouble with the party. I do not agree with what they've done at all. I've been quite open about that. I think we're already, as Portsmouth City Council, we're a functioning unitary authority. I think lumping Portsmouth with the surrounding areas is going to dilute the city. We're going to be loaded with debt from legacy debt from Hampshire City Council. I don't understand how it's going to function. It goes back to almost what Thomas was saying about council officers not knowing the area. If I was on the new Greater Portsmouth, South East Hampshire, whatever you want to call it, authority, how am I don't know anything about Fareham, Gosport, Havant, Waterlooville. How am I supposed to make decisions on those places? I know Portsmouth. It's a good unitary authority. It's change for change's sake, and it is rushed. It's not thought through. It's not consulted upon. I think it should not go through without. I know I said there was too many votes earlier. Without a referendum from the people of Portsmouth and the surrounding areas as well. They should get a say as well, obviously, but it's. I don't agree with it at all.
Brilliant. Tom, thank you for the honesty of your answer. And last but by no means least, LGR, Elliott.
I think the only good thing about this is it's going to make people more interconnected. And that's where it ends, right? I think that we were literally just talking about voter turnout. This is very much going to dilute people's votes. People care about what's on their doorstep, and again, we don't know. Voters don't like. They're not familiar with Gosport, Fareham, Waterlooville. They care about what's on their street, and that needs to be, that's. Yeah, I don't know where the government's head was at with this. Like, we need power more directly in our communities, not kind of spreading it out. I think we could have been doing. We could have some really good democratic change in the city, and I think that's always needed. But diluting it like this is just not helpful. I think a better change, for example, locally could be moving to a committee style local government where is the power is in the hands of all councillors instead of instead of the majority party. But yeah, I just think this is a incredibly poorly thought out um, move, and yeah, it's just not going to be of use to anyone at all. And yeah, the government could have done so much better at this.
Thank you, Elliot.
Perfect
There we
timing.
go. Perfect timing, which takes us to our final question before closing addresses. So, Simon, question 8.
Okay, so last question, as we said. This year we celebrate the centenary of Portsmouth. A bit of a bittersweet pill, considering what we've just discussed. What about the city makes you most proud? And Tom, I'd like you to answer that one first, please.
I am absolutely proud to live in Portsmouth. Nikki and I were not from here originally. Literally got married and moved down here the same weekend. That was back in 2007. I love the people of Portsmouth. I love how passionate and proprietorial they are about Portsmouth. They will slate Portsmouth all day, but if someone else from somewhere else does it, they will go to war for the place. It is a fantastic city. It's so much history intertwined with the Navy, with Charles II got married to Catherine of Brazanga down at the Royal Garrison Church, and she brought tea drinking to England. Portsmouth is responsible for tea drinking in England. It's such a beautiful historic city. We've got so many places, such lovely places to go. We've got the most successful football club south of London by far. I would never, ever consider living anywhere else. This is the best city in the world. We are world leaders in things. We've got connections all around the world. We've got twin cities almost most of the continents. It's a wonder to behold, and it's in my mind the greatest city in the world, the greatest people in the world.
Okay, lovely, fantastic. Elliot.
I wasn't actually aware of that royal tea fact, Tom, and
No,
I think my answer has now completely changed. As much as I hate the royal family, I am forever grateful for bringing tea. What was I going to say? Yeah, tea is amazing. I love it. I think I love Portsmouth. I came here as a student, and I've stuck around even through the terrible years of renting, which is still ongoing. But I think what I love other than tea is just how accepting the city is, and a big part of the campaign 100 years ago to make Portsmouth a city was around how it's very much a port to the nation, how accepting the city has always been to those travellers, migrants, people who have come to the city for whatever reason. And yeah, I just love how at home people can feel in the city, regardless of their background, whether they're a migrant, whether they're from the queer community, a religious background, or even if they drink coffee. So yeah, that's what I really appreciate about the city.
Okay, lovely. Glad that we're still tolerant of people that drink coffee. So, Thomas.
We've got such a proud history in Portsmouth. We are an island city, but we're not just an island city. We're an island city with a north extension. We've got one of the biggest marinas in the country in Portsolent. We've got some of the strongest communities in the country in Portsmouth. And the people here are incredible. It would be foolish of me to try and name a list of them. It would go on forever, and I don't think the time limit would allow it, and I don't think I could do it in my 90 seconds either. But the one thing I love the most about Portsmouth is the grit and determination of people to make this a better city for everyone. This is not a city where you will be turned away if you like coffee, if you like tea, although I must admit, Elliott, I'm much to your disdain, I am a hot chocolate man myself. We are not a city where you don't think you can talk to your neighbours. We are a city where if you had a problem, there will be someone who can help you. We're a city that is proud of its identity. We've been the home of the Navy. We're proud of Pompey. We hosted so many incredible Jubilee and Coronation Street parties. And this year we're hosting even more for Portsmouth 100. I'm incredibly proud to live here, and I know how much of a privilege it is to be a part of this community and an accepted part. That's why I'm proud of Portsmouth. The people here are amazing.
Fantastic.
So thank you to all of our candidates. That's our questions done, and obviously we thank everybody who's prepared to step up and put themselves up for election and to look for that public scrutiny. So we wish all of our candidates all the best on May the 7th, and the Pompey Politics podcast will be there broadcasting live through the night. So any of you that want to snuggle down with us metaphorically, we will be broadcasting from about 11 o'clock, and as the count starts to come in, we will let you know how everybody has got on. So it's time now for our closing speeches. So thanks to all of our participants, and if I can invite Elliott forward for your closing remarks, please.
Yeah, thank you both Simon and Ian for having me. I love doing these, and it's been great having Tom and Thomas on the show as well. I know you're both brilliant campaigners in your respective areas. So yeah, I love doing these. So thank you very much. And so yeah, you've heard from me today. You've heard about my approach to the city. You've heard about the green approach. It's all about common sense policies, fresh politics bringing to the city. It's about warm homes, healthier streets, and just a more connected community. Green Party councillors will always be there for residents, and that's what, at the end of the day, we are giving you when you vote of Green on May 7th.
Perfect. Thank you, Elliott. And if I can now invite Thomas to step forward for your closing remarks, please.
May the 7th is a choice. May the 7th is a choice for everyone in this city. And it's not just a choice between Reform or the Tories or Labour or the Lib Dems or the Green or any independent candidate that is putting themselves forward. It's the choice for the next 100 years of Portsmouth. We've done 100, we need to do 2. It's the choice of how LGR is handled. It's the choice of how your ward is represented. It's the choice of how your community is used and utilised to the best of its ability. On May the 7th, you need to go and vote. Whoever you're voting for, you have to go and vote. We've already spoke about turnout in this election, and I know it's tough when you have government after government that you don't necessarily trust, when you have councillors that will say one thing and do another. It is hard, but you have to persevere. You have to vote on May the 7th in the Portsmouth local elections. And hopefully you'll support Conservative candidates that will get your wards moving and they will get your wards improved.
Thank you, Thomas. And last and by no means least, Councillor Tom Coles, your closing remarks, please.
First off, I want to thank Ian and Simon for facilitating tonight's hustings. I want to thank Elliott and Thomas for joining. It's been great debates, great chat. There's a lot of cohesion between us, to be fair. Just this election, it's not a referendum on national issues. I know certain elements of the party spectrum try to push it as that. It's about choosing who you want to represent your area of Portsmouth, who you want to help clean up your streets, sort out your parking issues, sort out your bins and the fly tipping. It's been honour and a pleasure to represent the area that I live in and which I love for the last 8 years. And I would be honoured and really privileged to have another term. It's incredible what I get to do and the people I get to represent. Fratton is an amazing area, and I'm very fond to live here. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Simon.
Okay, well, thank you all so very, very much. We are ever so slightly a smidge over time, so thank you for your quick responses. My apologies, we did have some comments there, but unfortunately we don't have time to actually include any more of those. But we do encourage you, if you are interested in any more of the hustings that we're holding in the city, they'll be on Sunday, so they'll both be online. So there's the Copner Ward hustings at 2:30 p.m. with Ben Swan from the Conservatives and Andy Butterworth from Labour, and the Sunday Drayton and Farlington at 6:30 p.m. with Simon Bosher and Matthew Holland from Conservative and Labour respectively. But again, our thanks to Tom Coles, the Labour candidate for Fratton, to Thomas Hall, the Conservative candidate for Paulsgrove, and to Elliott Lee, the Green candidate for Charles Dickens. Thank you again for taking part. Please do, as our candidates have said, please do make sure to use your vote. It's there, and do remember you will need voter ID on the day if you're voting in person. So thank you very much. You've been listening to the Pompey Politics podcast, and we'll see you on Sunday.
Don't forget to like, follow and comment on Facebook, or comment and subscribe on YouTube. Find us on all the social media platforms: Facebook, X, YouTube, Threads, LinkedIn.